Comparing decimals can seem tricky because we will usually look at the numbers 57 hundredths and 507 thousandths and say that 507 thousandths must be bigger because there are more digits. But it actually isn't. 57 hundredths is larger. And so here's an easy way to see which numbers are the largest or the smallest when you're asked to compare decimals. First, you could use a place value chart so that the decimal point would be lined up for each number, and then you fill in the chart with the numbers you're given and fill in any empty squares with some zeros. And then the important part is that you start comparing the numbers by going to the farthest left column, and if the digits are the same, you move to the next column to the right until one number is larger and it wins. So if we look at those two numbers again, 57 hundredths compared to 507 thousandths. I see I have a 0 in both of the ones place, and then my decimal points, and then a 5 and a 5 in my tenths column, and here I have a 7 in the hundredths column and a 0 in the hundredths column, and then I have nothing there, and a 7 here. Well, just as I had said earlier, if I had empty squares, then I would fill them in with some zeros. So, and then I start with the digit farthest to the left. In this case, it's in my ones place, and I see that they're both zeros. So nothing's larger. So I'm going to move to the next column to the right, and here I have the tenths place, and again, those are the same numbers. So I move another column to the right, and I'm in the hundredths place, and I have a 7 and I have a 0. And a 7 is larger, which means this first number is larger, which then would mean that the 57 hundredths is greater than 507 thousandths. So let's try another one. Which of the following decimals is the greatest? So I have this set of numbers, and I see that they all have zeros, they all have twos, they all have sixes. But as we've talked about before, it depends on which place value those digits are placed, and that will determine which one is the largest. So if I start with this first one, and you'll notice I have my decimals lined up, and I have my decimals lined up on my place value chart, a 0, 2, 0, 6. So I have 0, 2, 0, 6. And here I have a 2 in my units and a 0, 6. 2 and a 0, 6, and I didn't have anything afterwards, but I know I can fill it in with a 0 because if it's blank, there's nothing there, and nothing is 0. And then my next one is 0, 0, 2, 6, so 0, 0, 2, 6, and a 0, 2, 6, 0, 2, 6, and fill in that empty space with a 0. So now my process tells me to go to the farthest column to the left that has digits. That would be my units or my ones place. And I see a 0, a 2, a 0, and 0. Well, I know that 2 is larger than any of those others, and they're all zeros, and I'm looking for the greatest number, so that one was really easy. The 2 is the largest, so which one of those is the greatest? I would have the 2 and 6 hundredths, or this one. Or if I wanted to look in the place value chart, it would be this one. So this problem asks me to put the following decimals in order from the least, it's going to be my smallest one, to the greatest. So I'm going to end up with the largest number last. So I'm looking at 13 and 41 hundredths, 13 and 41 into the hundredths, 10 and 395 thousandths, 10 and 395 thousandths, 13 and 14 hundredths, 13 and 14 hundredths, 3 and 416 thousandths, 3 and 416 thousandths, then 11 and 895 thousandths, 11 and 895 thousandths. So thinking back to my set of procedures, I'm going to go to the place value farthest to the left where there are digits, and I'm going to start comparing them. And I'm looking for the smallest. If I see a 1, a 1, a 1, a 0, and a 1. Well, a 0 is definitely the smallest, so my 3 and 416 thousandths would be the smallest. So I need to write that one first. I would have 3 and 416 thousandths, and that is less than. That's going to be my smallest. That's less than. And now I need to go find my next one. Well, it's easier for me if I just mark that one out. I've got that one. All right. So I've already looked in the tens place, and now I'm moving to the next place value to the right. I see a 3, 0, 3, 1. Well, the next smallest digit then is a 0 in this case, and that one would be the 10 and 395 thousandths. So that's going to be my next smallest. So I have 10 and 395 thousandths. And I'm going to mark that one off because I've used it. And that one is going to be less than. Alright, so now I'm staying in this column because I still have a 3, a 3, and a 1. They're not all the same. And I know that 1 is smaller. So my 11 and 895 thousandths is going to be next. So I'm going to write 11 and 895 thousandths. And that's going to be smaller than. Okay, now I'm moving. I'm still looking at my units place, and those are both 3, so that's not going to help me. So I'm going to go to the next column to the right, and that's my tenths place. I see a 4 and a 1, and a 1 is smaller than a 4. So my 13 and 14 hundredths is going to be next. So that's what I'm going to write, 13 and 14 hundredths, and that is smaller than, or less than. And when I mark that out, I'm left with one number, and that would be my greatest number, 13 and 410 thousandths, or I could leave that off because up here it was not written there. So I'm going to leave it off and just say 13 and 41 hundredths would be the greatest.